The Volkswagen Tiguan, this is a huge vehicle for Volkswagen and it's all new for 2025 in the third generation. And today we're reviewing it. Okay, we're kind of reviewing the wrong one because I'm here in Sweden where Volkswagen has flown me out to check out their 4Motion vehicles. And in Europe, Volkswagen sells a short wheelbase version of the Tiguan. But this is about as close as I can get to driving the new one that we're getting in the States. So in today's video, we're gonna take you on a tour of this all new third generation Tiguan, talk about what powers it, and then get it out on the road, or at least the ice. Good news, everybody! The new Tiguan rides on the MQB Evo platform, which sounds fast, and maybe it's a little quicker than the old one. We'll talk about that in a second, but this is the same platform that underpins the Golf GTI. Pretty cool little fun fact. Now, this Euro version of the Tiguan looks a little different than the American version. The grille isn't quite as big and open, but there are some similarities, like the light treatment. The horizontal light bar that runs the width of the car is going to be the same on our US version. Now, coming along the side here, I love this color. It's kind of this rich red, maybe orangey color, and it looks great contrasted against these black fender flares. Now, the US Tiguan has a squared off fender flare. The Euro version, a little bit more round, slightly different wheel design. This is an 18-inch wheel, and because we're in Sweden, we got the studded snow tire, which is fantastic. Coming along the side here, we've got some bright work along the roof. In the roof rails, Volkswagen badging on the B pillar, blacked out B and C pillars, of course, and then out back, the IQ light. Much more angular and aggressive than previous years with these little pods that kind of differentiates it. And then, of course, we have that light bar thing going along the rear as well. Tiguan spelled out across the tailgate, 4Motion. And Volkswagen is not giving us fake exhaust for 2025. Wahoo! They just don't give us exhaust at all. They're like, we're not going to do them fake. You're just going to never see them. Hey, I prefer that over the alternative. So in the US, the Tiguan comes with an updated EA 888 2-liter 4-cylinder, 201 horsepower, which is up from 184. Torque is up as well. This European Tiguan has a diesel. There's no way in hell we're getting a diesel in the US, but it is pretty cool to experience this car with the little 4-cylinder turbo diesel, and we'll get this out on the snow and show you what that's like here in a second. Now, fuel economy for the US car has not been announced yet, and neither is pricing, so be sure to stay tuned for that. All right, guys, so I'm here with my buddy Jared from CarBuzz.
Hey, guys.
And we're gonna talk about what it's like to drive this European Volkswagen Tiguan. Now, Jared, first things first, this car comes both in short and long wheelbase versions, but we're only getting the long one. Do you think that's a mistake?
No, you know, I haven't really spent a lot of time in the back seat, but I think for the American market, like the Tiguan has a lot of space both in the trunk and in the back seat. It's just better for our market to get the long wheelbase.
Yeah, I agree completely. And look, we're here in Sweden. They've got a lot less room, a lot smaller parking spots, so I totally understand why the Tiguan short wheelbase makes sense. But for those of you guys who live in Texas or out in the West, where we've got tons of space, having that additional room in the back is definitely worth it. Now, this Tiguan is a diesel. So we've got a 4-cylinder turbo diesel. Let's see what this thing accelerates in 3, 2, 1.
Ooh.
Pretty torquey, actually.
Not slow. I know diesels have a bad reputation. This thing's quick.
Dude, this thing really moves. We'll give it one more squirt. Wow! Not bad at all.
It's so smooth. I love these diesels.
It's super smooth. So, of course, Volkswagen hasn't sold diesels in the US for 10 years now because of the Dieselgate scandal. But man, this is a smooth engine. I'm really impressed. Now, in Europe, they also get not only the diesel, but a plug-in hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid as well, which it's crazy that Volkswagen really doesn't sell any hybrids in the US right now. They had the Jetta a number of years ago, but then they haven't really done anything since then.
And that's the one I really want. I think in Europe, it gets something like 50, 60 miles of range.
Which will be lower on the American cycle. It'll probably be 40 miles of range, which is still pretty good. That would match a Toyota RAV4 Prime, or probably best it by a little bit.
It would be awesome. But now that we've talked about the cars you can't buy, let's talk about what this Tiguan drives like. First impression, really, really comfortable and quiet.
Yes. Oh, yeah. This is getting back to those Volkswagen roots of when you would get in the car and be like, this almost feels like an Audi, but just a little bit less. And I think that's what we're in. Like, this could be a Q5 to me. And this isn't even as nice as the one we're getting with American walnut wood and all that kind of stuff on the interior.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It does feel super Audi-like in how it's behaving on the road, and some of the acoustic qualities are awesome. Now, as we kind of get up to speed here, you might notice we're in Sweden in a ton of snow, and Jared and I had the chance to do a lot of driving over the past couple days with Volkswagen's 4Motion system. First impressions are this 4Motion system works exceedingly well. So it used to be like in some of the old Volkswagen products with the halodeck systems, they were very reactive, where when you get on the throttle, you get the slip and then the grip, where it would do front wheel spin and then it would kick power to the rear. But these modern Volkswagen systems are completely active. So it's not just if you lose traction, it's based on temperature it'll engage the rear axle. It's based on cornering speed. It's based on yaw angle, all these different factors. So this feels as good, first impression, as something like a full-time all-wheel drive system that like Subaru markets. It really is doing well.
Yeah, and in the US, we won't get this diesel, but we will get the ubiquitous EA 888 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbocharged engine. Instead of about 184 horsepower last year's Tiguan, we're now getting 201 horsepower out of the EA 888 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. You can get 4Motion all-wheel drive with that, which is great. So yeah, it's a nice power increase, and they actually saved weight using more aluminum and lightweight like steel, like bonded steel, I guess, to save some weight on the car. So
Nice.
fuel economy should go up from last year's model, even though you get more power.
Yeah, I think the new one's like 170 pounds less.
Yes.
At least in the US than the old one.
Yes, even though it's like bigger, I think overall, like lengthwise, they actually managed to make the car a lot lighter too.
The gloves are coming off as we check out the interior of this Tiguan. Now, there are a bunch of changes in here compared to the 2024 and previous generations, which I love. Like down here, we have this huge central volume knob. Volkswagen knows that Americans and just people in general love volume knobs. Look at the size of that bad boy. That's awesome. And it's also a little bit dynamic. It can be either the drive selection or the volume, so it's got some different functionality. And then right there is your engine start stop button. Now the screen is a monster. The standard screen in the US is a 12.9 inch screen. Look at this, Jared. Eagles. That's when you say go birds, buddy.
Go birds!
Go birds! Even in Sweden. Standard is a 12.9 inch screen. This right here is the optional 15-inch display, and I think they've done quite a good job with this because it doesn't look tacked on like some other manufacturers. It's fairly well integrated into the dashboard, and then we do have a volume slider here if you want other options for volume. We do have temperature sliders here as well, but Volkswagen has done a good job of improving the system over the years. This used to be the worst infotainment in the industry when it debuted in the ID4, and now in my opinion it's one of the best. I love this kind of app-based system. Works really well, super snappy, and it's got color. So many manufacturers are afraid of using colors. Volkswagen is not. Some cool features in here, by the way. I'm going to open up the seat setting. You can get the Tiguan with massaging seats, which is pretty wild. This ergo motion design, and from my brief experience with it, it's a chunky massage. It's not just like some baby pushing gently against you with their teeny tiny hands. This is like a sumo wrestler pounding the back. It's really intense. You can change the intensity. Heated ventilated seats are optional. Heated steering wheel as well. And I love that we have physical buttons on the steering wheel. So Volkswagen has done this thing where they've been moving to haptic controls on the steering wheel. This is physical hard buttons. That's a huge plus. Some kind of weird things going on here in the center. So we have a little cover to hide the wireless charging tray, but nope, I do not want ChatGPT. Thank you. That's very kind of you, though. But check this out. Dual wireless chargers, which is a really nice setup. We got this kind of funky cup holder situation where you can adjust the size of the cup holder for your bottles. And then in the center console, more cup holders. Wow, look at that. The Europeans are finally figuring it out. Us Americans love cup holders. Now this one has this kind of shiny finish here across the dash, but you can also get this in the States with this really cool wood trim, and you can even get it with quilted leather seats. Oh, that's good stuff. Now the back seat of the Tiguan, this is a pretty hard comparison to make because the Euro version is some 9 inches shorter than the US version, so I can't really talk about room apples to apples, but I can talk about some of the cool features, like the little built-in phone pockets. You got 2 of them now, unlike the ID4, which has 1. That's really nice. We also have heated rear seats, a little bit of climate control action here, USB-C air vents, and I love this 2-tone leather. I'm not sure if we're getting this in the US, but this black on white looks very cool. And one thing which is definitely better than this EU version of the Tiguan is, you might notice we're going 3 kilometers over the speed limit, and it's about to start beeping at us, the bong, because they have a mandatory speed limit bong here in the EU, which is just the most annoying thing.
Yeah, I can't believe they have to do that on every car.
Yeah, pretty wild. But guys, first impressions, I'm really digging this car. It feels a lot more comfortable and refined off the bat than something like a RAV4 or a CR-V. It almost feels like it's in a different price category. We don't know the pricing in the US, but it feels like it's in a different premium category than those cars. I really am very impressed with how smooth and refined this driving experience is.
And heated and ventilated seats, massage seats, these are things that you can't get even on a Lexus NX, let alone a Toyota RAV4 or a CR-V, which is great.
The last thing I'll say is, I know we're never going to get this diesel engine at home, but the plug-in hybrid would be such a big seller.
I think they need to bring that.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, they do get the US Tiguan here, but it's not called the Tiguan.
It's called the Tayron.
The Tayron!
Which has 3 rows, actually, which the Tiguan did have at one point, but it was so tiny and nobody needed the 3rd row, so they got rid of it in the US market. Kind of interesting.
And when you see the Tiguan and the Tayron next to each other, the front end similar, the rear end similar, but the Tayron does look significantly bigger.
Yeah, it does look bigger. And our Tiguan does look bigger than this, so keep that in mind.